Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to Synchronicity Web TV. I am your host, Nadiya Shah, and this is your moment of synchronicity. Well, I'm so excited to celebrate with you today, Key Tyler. You've seen her on my channel before. You know how much I love her. She brings this incredible, calm and wise and beautiful energy. And it is Key that you have seen at Synchronicity University before. Well, now Key is back at Synchronicity University, this time with her own 5-part course, and we're going to talk all about it. It's the elements, it's the senses, and it's this presence and feeling the planets and just so much more. So we are about to have an amazing conversation. Key, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me back. It's such a blessing to be here with you, to be with your community. They're always so warm. They love the positivity that these connections bring. I enjoy watching other astrologers on your channel. So it's fun. It's like we get to hang out and drink our little beverages and just get together. It's wonderful.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I love that we get to have this conversation, and then everybody watching sort of gets to join us. They come into it with us and get to enjoy the experience together as well, learn something as well. Like that's the thing I'm really big on is I love learning in general. I have a Sag moon. I think more people know I have a Sag moon than know I have an Aquarius sun because I'm just so proud of my Sag moon, right? But I love learning. I love being able to gain something and feel better as a result of information or insights that I've been exposed to. So I love facilitating that in others as well. And so, yeah, I think you and we got along so well last time. So it's so nice to be here with you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I most definitely agree with the learning aspect. In fact, a lot of times it's hard for me to watch fictional things. I have to watch something where I can learn. I've got to associate myself personally in the story. And so I just wanted to bring that to the table, kind of what is experiential about our moons. But maybe if you don't have a fixed moon, when we are in the process of observing a lunar cycle in a what sometimes would be considered a heavy month of Capricorn, how do we use the fixed moons to kind of bring ourselves back up to an elevated standard when we get to the Aquarian nature? And through the exploration of some of these elements that, I've been playing with over the past couple months through ritual and things like this, using, simple altars and kind of discovering more about the psychological connections of what comes up when we're playing with these elements. It's very intriguing because, through the process of creating the class, I've learned about a lot of visionaries who are fixed signs, who really have dropped deeply into the work that they are so incredibly connected to at the soul level. And we can see that through a lot of the works that they bring forward. So it's just basically, how do we connect the inner experience with the outer experience, and really paying attention, being able to shake it up for the Capricorn season, get some movement of our feelings and our bodies and our minds. And then at the end, I hope that we can come to this sense of what's the spiritual evolution of it all? What is the greater concept of dealing with the shadow, or being in your feelings, or, wanting to change something about yourself? And my teacher, Maurice, who's also teaching a course, he said to me, it's really important for us to understand that the depth is important, but you can't stay there. And how can we start to make fun of some of these things that feel heavy? How do we not take ourselves so seriously? So I look forward to bringing that to the table as well.
Yeah. So how do we not take ourselves so seriously, especially in moments when life can feel really serious, right? And a lot of it is about the aspects, of course. We'll have aspects that are really heavy duty, but then how do we navigate them and still stay light?
One of my favorite rituals in the morning is to just give thanks that I woke up, but to also light fire because I'm a Leo sun. I feel like connecting with that element reminds me of the candle that is burning. And sometimes, like, even I have a candle burning now, and sometimes the flame is big and sometimes it's really small. And sometimes I realize that, like, I look at this flame and it's kind of, burning out a little bit. I'm like, do I need a break? Do I need to restore myself in some way so that I can build that fire back up? So it's simplicity in that, in not having this big grand ritual, which you can have, but just the noticing. Do you have any favorite rituals or things that you do to kind of keep yourself in awareness about that?
I really like affirmations and mantras. I find them really powerful, and I always like to incorporate the elements like symbolically. And so here, I'll give you a little example actually. A couple of weeks back, so one of my very dear astrologer friends, mentors, Michael Luton, passed away. And we did here at Synchronicity University an online memorial for him so that people could gather and talk about him. And there was just so much love for him. It was quite incredible. But as part of that, I actually gathered, and I'll just sort of do this. I don't know how much you can see, but see here, right? So here you'll see representations of fire, water, earth, and air. So I've got the fire represented. I had water in that little cup, and I had a seashell. I have earth represented by the stones. I have air represented by the bell, and I had fire represented by the candle and incense that is in that little glass dish there. And that's what I always like to use, is incorporate the elements. And then, of course, I invited ether into the mix as well. And I know that this is part of what you are doing with the course. Like, each of the classes is oriented around one of the five senses. And I thought that that was incredible in the way that you bring in elements. So how do you feel about us going through the five senses and talking about what elements you associate with them and why? Because I thought that was really fascinating to consider. And just before you do that, I do want to say, in line with mantras and things like that, I actually got back into them because I'd let them go for a while. And then I heard this wonderful song. And I don't know if a lot of people know, but Snoop Dogg has a children's album. And in that children's album, he has what's called the affirmation song. And I've used it now as my alarm to wake up. And so literally I can hear them in my mind as I move through the day, because it's the first thing I hear, right? There is no one better to be than myself. Today is going to be an amazing day. My feelings matter, right? All this that he goes through. And I love it so much. And it is magical. It is just so magical to say affirmations in and of themselves, right? Yeah, I love how you bring these different understandings together, the elements and the five different senses. And it is so fascinating to see these correlations that you've drawn. So I would love for you to go through them. Let's start with the element of earth, because you associate that with taste and smell. So how can we understand that connection, and especially in the context of astrology?
When it comes to understanding the earth element, what I believe that we're trying to open up to is what is trying to become practical in our lives. What is needing to become stable and grounded? A lot of times, we are coming from a place that has, we have really big ideas and really big ambitions. But what is the earth element trying to bring for us? It's trying to slow us down. It's trying to give us, this Taurus moon gives us taste. It shows us that we value smell, that we value things that look good, they smell good, they're appetizing. And so, when we think about, well, what are some of the different like therapies and different rituals that we can bring in to kind of make ourselves aware of what our particular or what the earth moons are trying to bring, this one in particular, Taurus. One, to bring awareness to our inner world. One, to bring awareness to our values. What particular values? When we have our class together, we will discuss how these moons will affect your particular ascendant sign. So you'll get the opportunity to see how this can personally affect you in what very specific, unique ways. But as a whole, we'll just be opening up what needs to be apparent, what needs to be addressed, because the sun is going to be in Capricorn. So we're just going to be dropped into this like density of realness. And how do we navigate, the heaviness that can come?
Yeah, Capricorn season can feel quite heavy, quite consequential, right? And that's the heaviness of embodiment itself. I always think of that as very strongly oriented around the earth element. And the fact that you associate earth with taste and smell, well, what is it that puts us in a moment more than anything? Right? What makes us aware that we are physical beings. It is that sense of what we're tasting. It is that sense of our aromas around us that sort of awaken the sensual pleasures, which is so earth element as well. So fire is vision, seeing. You've associated that.
I come from the school of evolutionary astrology, and from some schools, we believe that Leo represents the eyes, the sight. When you think about the natural world and you think about a lion in its natural habitat, they have a stare, they have a focus that is unwavering. And I like to, it's like setting your sights on something that you need to embody fully. You need to feed yourself. You need to feel that you're at the top of your game. And so I see Leo as sight, as a recognition of one's inner purpose. We start to realize through sight, looking all around the world, I like this, I don't like this. I want to see this for myself. And so we start to build the fire. We start to put these logs down, all of this earth that we've been putting down from the rocks that we lay out for the fire. And then we add some log pieces. And then, we're adding the little kindling, the smaller fires, and we're using the fire to light it. And now we can see in the dark. Now we can see this inner part, this Leo moon. We're starting to see, I've got some internal things that I really want to bring forward, that I really want to express myself and empower myself in different ways. And so that's why I've associated it with sight. Understanding one's purpose. The sun is the purpose, is the king of the day. And so, how do we use Leo moon in our charts? For me, I have it in the second house. So, it's a process of, understanding, what are my internal values? How do I take up space? How do I use my voice in a way that feels grounded, that doesn't feel all over the place? And so I just wonder, how do you process a Leo moon?
Well, I love that you talked about this idea of seeing in the dark, right? That's a very beautiful consideration to have with fire in general. And I too, like you, have Leo as ruler of my second house. And to me, that's about needing to be confident, right? Just putting myself out there as part of cultivating healthy self love. But also, when I look at what I do, right, this is my work, right? This is how I support myself and to those I'm responsible for, I'm able to provide, is because of putting myself out there, putting myself on camera. And personally, one thing I really love about my work is that I get to be really fabulous. Like whatever my definition of fabulous is at that point in my life, I do it up. I really do. Again, to the best of my ability, but way back in the day, because my channel started in 2008. The first couple of years, you see, like my style is, pretty. At the time, I was exercising like crazy, so I'm wearing a lot of stuff like that. And then I went through this period where I was really into like sparkles and sequins and stars. And I had these big star rings and everything. And I would have big hair and everything. And people would always comment on this like very flashy way that I loved to present myself at the time. And, everything sort of matched it. And then, of course, it just continued to evolve. And just like I evolve, of course, my style is going to evolve as well and will continue to. But all of that is to say, to me, that is all very Leo, like just having to be fabulous, to be out there in whatever way I feel called to. It has become such an important part of my work. I'm very fortunate now. I have a team of people who help me with my work. But the thing is, and I say this, is that there's so much they can help me with. There's so much that they can do. However, what they can't do is they can't sit in front of a camera for me. That is something only I can do. Personally, I really want and love the idea of people like my voice and my thoughts reaching people. So I don't use ghost writers. I want it to be me and my voice, which is for better or worse sometimes. I mean, sometimes after the fact, I'm like, oh, that could have been better. Sometimes editing issues show up and everything. And it's just, it isn't always caught. And everything isn't always caught where it comes to the editing of books as well. But at least I know it's me. At least I know it's real. At least I know that it's not just something I oversaw and put out there, but rather there's something within me that is now a part of the canon. That's now a part of the world knowledge that exists. And I really love that. To me, that always represented immortality. And so I guess that is also a way to prove specialness, right? Which is part of what Leo is about as well. So, wow, it's so interesting that you make those associations. It's just got me thinking in new ways as well.
Oh, thank you for saying so. I try my best not to splay out to synchronize everything together, but sometimes, most of the time when I'm navigating the world, that's what it feels like. Everything feels like this synchronistic moment for me to understand that there is more to the message. There's more to this bird that's flying around. There's just little droplets of inspiration. And so, yeah, when the Leo moon is happening, I'm having very inspirational moments as well and feeling very emboldened and feeling very alive to do something about it.
Yeah, such also a characteristic of fire in general, right? Like you've got me thinking in all kinds of new ways about my chart, like how fire has us taking initiative is part of what it represents as well. And how having fire with my work houses so strongly associated. Yeah, so much of it has been the initiative that I've had to take that has led to the growth that I've experienced doing this now for actually, it was like my business started in 2006, but my YouTube channel and my social media presence started with Pluto in Capricorn in 2008. And so all of this that's been built has been over the course of Pluto in Capricorn. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes with Pluto in Aquarius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is huge.
Yeah, it was a huge realization to have. So let's move forward with water. Water is touch and feelings. Feelings, of course, is so water. How do you understand those correlations?
Well, I love Scorpio. It is such a deep sign. I find a lot of the people that I associate with who are Scorpios to be just very valuable to my life as friends, and as people to learn from, because they have learned how to not stay in the deep for too long. With water and Scorpio, I like to associate it with the touch and the feel. Usually, at some point, you feel touched enough personally to feel it deeply. And I come from the school of thought that when you are personally moved, you are personally forced to touch something or feel something that might not be too soft, it might be a little prickly, that we have the ability to transform it if we're made aware. So it does represent the shadow. It does represent diving deep, but it also represents the opportunity to learn about yourself in not only a psychological way, but just accepting yourself and finding different ways to bring yourself back. There's a lot of shedding that happens with Scorpio. There's a lot of understanding one's limitations and understanding where we've felt disempowered. And when we use water, we are able to control how much comes in and how much surrounds us. And, we're able to kind of meld with the movement. So I feel that it is touch and feel, that we're working with this psychological aspect, that we're trying to move our emotion and move it out of stagnation into Sagittarius eventually, which is positive, which is open, which is feeling ignited and empowered by what we've just experienced. So in the process of learning together, we'll be using and kind of learning the importance of using ritual and water, incorporating water and ritual. And just, I notice sometimes in my own chart, with my low air, what am I supposed to do to bring more of that in so that I can create some balance? And so, I have to do things like listening to mantra and reading more and having more conversations and getting in communal spaces. But when it comes to water, it's more of like a secretive thing for me. It's more like I don't want anybody to know the hard parts. And when it comes to Scorpio, sometimes they get the bad rap of, things are hard for them. They fall on hard times. They have to get their reputation back up, And so when we fall, when we feel flat, how do we create again? How do we reinvent ourselves a little bit? How do we move past that deep and kind of get into a little bit of shallower waters?
And so then next up we have air, and that is hearing. You've associated it with hearing. Wow.
Yeah, all of the air signs kind of offer this opportunity to take notice, but I like to liken the ability to hear to the sign of Libra, but because we are working with the sign of Aquarius, who is a visionary, who can see above the clouds, who's able to have such forward-moving foresight. You know, in order to have that, you have to pay attention to what's going on around you. You have to listen to what people are asking you for. You have to listen to your soul and understand what it's desiring so deeply from within. And, you know, in the Northern Hemisphere, you know, we are still in the deeper parts of the winter. So to have a vision in the middle of the darkness is such a profound, elevating experience. So, you know, what are we listening for? What are we listening to? What are we saying? You know, but, you know, as you explained, you're using mantra and you're listening to the mantra, but you're also speaking it. So you brought that right back around for us.
Yeah, right. And I love the idea of there's like something you hear, which is, of course, very air, but hearing isn't just a literal process, right? It's also hearing yourself, hearing the voice within, hearing the voice of the soul that becomes part of what really guides us forward in important ways, especially where it comes to actually embodying the elements and what air represents. Air is constantly moving around. So there's so much there in terms of new experiences, in terms of communication, in terms of adaptability. But there's something that we might hear that might be more constant, which orients us around the fixed energy that you're focusing on as it's represented in Aquarius. I think that's an incredible correlation to make. And so finally, we have spirit, which is about faith. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I do believe that, you know, all of these really deep experiences that we have the opportunity to bring us to the understanding of spirit on our own personal level. And with conversations that I've had with some really great psychics and intuitives and shamans, when they do their inner work, when they do the things, when they focus on healing what's ruminating, healing what's ailing them, healing what's emotionally tying them up, all of their spiritual gifts come online. And I just wanted to touch on how that happens for people and how the external world opens up and can be a simple representation of divine, of what we would maybe consider God, and to maybe walk with more faith in our lives, the faith in the ability that we can shed and get through this stuff, that life doesn't have to be so heavy. We have the faith and the ability to believe in our internal process and getting to know ourselves in a deep way. Yeah.
Wow. How wonderful. So once again, everybody, Key is back at Synchronicity University with her own 5-week course this January 2025. And from the time that this is publishing, you have a little time left to choose your tuition rate, as low as just $5 a class, to learn from Key. Come and embody your senses by connecting with the elements. I think it's going to be absolutely fascinating and illuminating. Thank you for being here. I love getting to know you and working with you, and just the heart, the purity that you bring to your astrological practice. It really stood out to me right from the very beginning. So how wonderful that now you'll be teaching a 5-week course.
Thank you so much, Nadiya. I look forward to the whole process. I look forward to those who connect to this message. I look forward to seeing you in class. Look forward to engaging with you. And thank you for letting me be here again. It's a joy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a joy to have you as well. So thank you again. And thank you, everybody out there, for watching. Until we connect again, take care. Bye.